I'm Russ Stevens, and I'm one of the senior systems designers at Larian.
And what does that role do?
Systems sort of looks at how you play the game holistically, like everything you do sort of like as a big picture. So we're less moment to moment, like we don't focus on like a specific combat or how a specific storyline plays out, but we look at classes. That's like the easy thing to see. So myself, like I was the lead on the monk class, the paladin, and the barbarian. But in between, like we all sort of like chip in with like helping out setting up some spells. Or one of my favorite things I got to work on was like the food, like all the camp supplies. I had so much fun working on that, and I did not realize how much fun I would have like looking at nutritional values of stuff.
That's fantastic. Well, you must feel very proud that the paladin is so popular in the analytics.
Yeah, like I think a paladin's like a tentpole class. Like everyone kind of wants to be a paladin. You've got that kind of versatility of like I can wear like heavy plate armor, I can do a bit of spell casting, and I've got like a lot of charisma, so I can. It's a very narrative-driven game, so people want that kind of charisma in their character, and kind of like that knight in shining armor kind of archetype is very much for a lot of people going to a first fantasy game. Like that's where they see themselves, and we kind of see like similar patterns in the tabletop. Like the most popular classes tend to be stuff like sorcerer, paladin. Unfortunately, over in the spectrum, we kind of got cleric sort of like left at the bottom.
Yeah.
But cleric is so fun as well. Like there's some really cool stuff you can do with it. But I think Shadowheart just sort of like she's the best companion that everyone wants.
It's hard to show up Shadowheart as the cleric. Yeah. So, what do you enjoy about paladins, and kind of run me through the subclasses and what was important to capture for each of them?
One of the biggest house rules we did for Paladin was we decided to bring Oath to level 1. So when you start out, your Oath is really key to what your character means when you're developing your character and character creation. So Oath of Ancients is very much a Paladin that strives to keep the balance of like life and death and nature. There's a bit of crossover with Druids, but I really enjoy that you can be like this knight in shining armor who is more of a green knight, which as someone from the UK, like a green knight's like very old lore, like very Arthurian. Yeah. And it's kind of nice kind of seeing that kind of like coming out. And then Oath of Devotion, very much your classic paladin class. Someone about like upholding justice and like looking out for those in need. I think that's very much the paladin like a lot of people kind of are drawn towards of like what a paladin should be. And that's fun, and like we like to play with like a paladin that's like, I'm a bit supporty, like I'll help my allies out, I'll sit at the front, I'll take a beating. And then we have Oath of Vengeance, which we held back for the full release just because it takes a paladin down a different path, where you're about righting wrongs, and you're about seeking out people who have like violated either laws of the land, who have harmed other people, and they're a lot more brutal than the other two starting subclasses. And their kind of ability set as well sort of like mirrors that. They're very much about like controlling the battlefield and seeking out singular foes. And then my favorite part about it is the Oathbreaker, where you start out with an oath with some tenets that you must uphold, which we incorporate into your dialogue choices, but also in your gameplay. So if you start killing everyone you see, you're going to break your oath. So you then become an Oathbreaker, and you then are met by this Oathbreaker knight who we wanted to make sure it wasn't just black and white. Like the reason why you broke your oath wasn't necessarily because you are evil. It could be you just struggle to follow the rules when you feel like there's something for the greater good that you want to fight for, but doesn't necessarily stick with your original oath. So we made the Oathbreaker Knight very much a character where the player got to interact with them to develop their own role-playing. So it's not about the knight themselves, it's about the questions they're asking you and why you broke your oath and what it now means to you to be an Oathbreaker. And it's just quite a fascinating thing to see like why players have broken their oaths. So during the playtesting sessions, like I had to sit down with everyone that kind of played the Paladin, and it's like, okay, right. And the ones that did break their oath, I'm like, why did you break your oath? And it's always for... Some of the times they just did it for a laugh, they just murdered someone because they wanted their cool weapon. But sometimes it was like, the encounter you have with the hag in Act 1, there's a character whose outcome, depending on what you pick, could go against your Oath of Ancients, but could seem morally like the right thing to do as a paladin. So you could break your oath in that way, and that's what happened to this player, and they kind of felt a bit torn by it. It's like, I felt like I did the right thing, but it was against my oath. But now I've got cool undead raising powers, so I'm chill.
Yeah. It's I'm pretty tempted by any undead raising myself. So especially having a little bit of an undead army is always kind of nice.
That has been one of the things I've really enjoyed, is seeing players pick necromancy wizards and just end up with like a fun party of skeleton followers, and just it's a bit weird just seeing all these skeletons like raised and running around Baldur's Gate. But I'm cool with it. If you want to make your turn order longer, that was your choice.
Yeah, that's very true. It's very. How do the denizens of Baldur's Gate react to undead wandering around the city?
I'm 90% certain they do react to that as well. I can't remember off the top of my head if we did add that or not, but I'm pretty sure they do. We definitely have reactivity for if you're a druid and you wild shape into a spider. Like, people do freak out at a giant spider like running around.
Yeah,
which is quite fun. Our spiders look too realistic in the game. Like,
they are horrifying. Yeah, I have a problem with spiders. So.
I can just about deal with spiders in the house. Like in the UK, like spiders are tiny, like they're nothing. So it's like, all right, out we go. I don't really want to touch you. That's fine. But when I go into the game and I have to look at a spider, I'm like, this is
yeah.
There's something, they're too good looking.
To the Barbarian, because you worked on it, like, what did you enjoy? What was important to capture about the Barbarian experience? I'm very keen on playing a Barbarian that is wild magic.
Oh, wild magic was so much fun. Wild magic barbarians are idiots who don't understand how their magic works. It just happens. I think I just really enjoy that. I don't care why I'm doing magic. I'm just having fun. I'm angry and magic's just shooting out of me. Another thing as well was like, another fun one working with narratives. Like, we have all the reactivity in the game. Like, if you're a monk, you'll get special dialogue options because you are a monk. And Paladin especially, we sort of branched out into like your oath unlocks like brand new narrative options in game. For the Barbarian, we kind of wanted to not just make it about being like hulking out and just going in rage all the time, but we did make a special edge case for Berserker. So Berserker gets their own custom dialogue options where you do hulk out and you are just angry. There's some fun ones. Like, I really enjoyed it. Like, when you're on the Nautiloid for the first time at the start of the game, and Shadowhearts is like banging on the capsule to be let out. And like every other class has to sort of like look around, like, how can I do this? And interact with the Illithid powers. Barbarian just rips the thing off. And I love that. That's such a Barbarian, like, I would do that in tabletop. I'd just be like, oh, screw it, right, strength check, come on, ripping this thing off.
Yeah, that was a nice moment. I started a Barbarian and I saw I could do that. I'm like, oh, this is lovely. How more often am I going to get to do just tear things to pieces in this game?
The narrative team really wanted to make Karlach a Barbarian. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And getting to like chat to Bo, who was the narrative lead on Karlach. And they had these like crazy ideas like, Ross, can we do this? Like, can we do this? Like, I want Karlach to be on fire. Like, can we do something with soul coins with her? And I was like, okay, let me sit down. Let's kind of like have a good chat. Like, what can we do to make Karlach special? Like, what makes her this ultimate barbarian from hell? So that was cool. So that was another narrative point where it's like, oh, I get to help out with some writing stuff. Like, that's not usually what I do. I usually just sit in spreadsheets and do numbers and talk to programmers.
But you have like that environment where you can just kind of
I think
cross-pollinate.
That's exactly it. And I think at Larian, like, we all sort of like sit around each other at the different studios. Like, we all take ideas from other people. So I've had writers suggest things like, hey, like, this attack, should it do this? Or like, hey, want to do flurry of blows? Like, kind of lead it into something else. So we get these like cool conversations, like sit around the kitchen, just chat with each other. I think like it's fostered this identity of Larian being like, everyone's got good ideas and we want to see these good ideas kind of brought forward to the game to kind of like elevate things. Because everyone plays these games. Like, everyone in the studio is a big D&D fan and everyone's a fan of the game they're working on. So ideas should come from everywhere.
You had been very excited for all these different monk subclasses, and they're varied. What can you break them down a little bit? What you enjoyed about them?
So monk got a lot of attention from us. We weren't really scared to kind of house rule things where we felt that it didn't translate into a video game as much. Like, in the tabletop environment, monk's about describing your actions and your motions and how you do things. And to a certain extent, like, you don't have that same flexibility to sort of like drive the narrative to describe your actions. So we kind of like went back to class and like, okay, how do you make this like live up to the kind of archetypes that people want to see out of monk? Like, open hand monk is very much like the Kung Fu master. It's the Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan. I want to do cool moves. It's a class that you kind of have to think like you have not as big a tool belt as say a wizard. Like, a wizard spell bar is massive.
Yeah.
With an open hand monk, it's a lot more manageable. But I think the clever thing with open hand monk is about how do I use my smaller selection of tools can be used in a much wider way. So you have like ways to dash and then get a free jump and then just use that as your bonus action. And about like, how can I get from here to here really quick and punch this guy? Can I stun this guy? It's about like sort of manipulating the battlefield in a fun way. Where the Shadows it's the ultimate ninja. It's the guy who's skulking in the shadows to like pop out and instantly strike enemies. It is the ninja fantasy. And then for Elements Monk is someone that controls the weave in a very different way, and it's about through those sort of like movements that they can like manipulate the elements around them. And it is fun to run and punch someone and just drop a fireball at the feet of your enemies.